So why did Ornette Coleman call this free jazz? Well, because you couldn't sell it in a record store. No, really, just for imagine a moment sitting and listening to jazz unburdened by the restrictions of tonality, time, or form. It really is a pure artistic expression. This week, we talk about Ornette Coleman's album, Free Jazz, released in 1961 on the Atlantic record label, both on LP and CD. You know, something I noticed rereading the information from the Jazzwise magazine this week is that this was first released in September of 1961. The first release of this album had a side A and a side B, and it was both Free Jazz Part 1 and Free Jazz Part 2. Then later in history, the album Twins came out, which had Free Jazz on it, amongst many other songs. So there's actually been 3 different records that have come out, and the album that I was listening to this week was the 1988 re-release CD, which had both Free Jazz and First Take on it. So I'm going to put that slide up right now of which album that was, because I listened to both songs. Did y'all get that?
Okay,
album?
well, here's what I got. So on iTunes, mine says it's the Atlantic 50-year anniversary edition. Now, when I'm viewing the album, it says it's from 1961, but if I go back to the library, the album is listed as 1971. So, yes, very, very confusing. Now, I do have parts 1 and 2 of Free Jazz and then First Take. So there's 2 songs on the album.
That's what I show is 2 different songs, one 20 minutes and one almost 40 minutes.
3703 and 1706. Good.
Yep.
So, with that said, we've been getting some feedback and comments, which, again, we always love and appreciate hearing from listeners on this. What we've determined out of these comments is that it's nice to hear selections of the audio, but everybody says just tell us which ones you would select, so what song would stand out to you, and if there was a time frame for it. So there's 2 songs. Matt and Dad, which song and what section of song would you choose for our listeners to go to for this album?
Got it, Matt?
Okay, I'm ready. I was listening to song number 1. My clip this week would have been song number 1, starting right at 25 minutes and 30 seconds. Now, what?
Go ahead. No.
There's of course, you're 25 and a half minutes into this album. For our listeners who may not understand what's going on, there's 2 quartets playing, and one quartet of musicians is playing in the left channel. One quartet is playing in the right channel. Now that's 8 people, all doing something different at the same time. 8, yeah.
Yes.
So what I liked, what I appreciated was it comes to a volume down, and at 25:30 you hear dueling basses. So you'll hear Charlie Haden on the bass, and you'll hear Scott LaFaro on the right side. So you got one bass in the left ear, one bass in the right ear, and they are not doing the same thing. They're doing something completely different. It's dueling basses is what I called the clip. So I really appreciated that. And it goes on for a minute, almost 2 minutes, minute and a half to almost 2 minutes, those dueling basses in that section. So 25 minutes and 30 seconds. Check out that clip.
And I forgot to mention that. It is Free Jazz, a collective improvisation by the Ornette Coleman Double Quartet. Dad, what clip would you have listened to?
Well, I listened to the second track, the 37-minute track.
Okay.
And I started, well, I'd recommend that our listeners look at starting at 22:50, 22 minutes and 50 seconds, and it goes on for quite a bit of time. And I chose that because of the rhythm. The drums come out, and there are 2 sets of drums, right? And so I like that beat, but it also incorporates all of the other musicians. But it sounds to me like the drums are paramount here. So that's the reason I chose this track.
Brilliant. And I was going to say anything from free jazz, but specifically just the entire song, which is 37 minutes long. If you listen with the reverence, to really pay attention to one band trying to occupy one ear and the other. I did this last week or this weekend. I only listened to the left side track. And then the second time I listened to only the right side track. And you can hear the bands fighting for attention, but you really begin to see the difference between Don Cherry and Freddie Hubbard.
Yeah.
And to hear those two not battling it out, this was not a battle. It was a collective improvisation. But to hear those two guys going at it in the horns, the trumpets, was phenomenal. But listening with reverence to the whole song. This is free jazz. So go ahead.
It's 8 songs all rolled into one that you have to pay attention to on 2 different ears.
It's tough to pay attention to who's playing what, when, where, why, and how.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it really is. You had Don Cherry, Freddie Hubbard on trumpet, Scott LaFaro, Charlie Haden on bass, Ed Blackwell, Billy Higgins on drums, and then it was Eric Dolphy who stuck with the bass clarinet, and of course the great Ornette Coleman on the alto sax.
Who was that on bass clarinet?
It was not Courtney Pine. It was
it was not.
Eric Dolphy.
Oh, interesting. Keep that name in mind. For some reason, I don't know.
So thanks for the recommendation on the songs and selections. Now,
well, one more thing before we move on. Hang on, because I was listening today, and like you, I listened to the right track first, and however, I pop one out, pop one back in. You can overhear the sax. Okay, so if the sax is prominent in your right ear, but if you take it out, you can still hear the sax in a distance.
Yes.
In your left ear. So they are playing at the same time. It's not like they recorded this quartet, recorded that quartet, and then mashed them up. They're all 8 in the studio.
It is bizarre, and thanks for mentioning that, because you can pick up a little bit of it in each ear, but then combined you can hear the brilliance of it. So listening to it while you're driving down the car, you're never going to pick up those differences.
No.
It sounds like a hodgepodge of music.
Well, and this is big headphone worthy too. That's the thing.
You said that last week.
I did.
You're right. Information.
You ready?
Let's get into the slideshow, y'all.
All right.
Just the facts, baby. Just the facts.
Here we go. Just like I say every week, and I'm going to continue to say for the next 15 weeks, whatever you do it to jazz. And you'll hear it coming up in our Week in Music in just a few minutes. That's pretty much what we do. One more time, the album that we're talking about tonight, the Ornette Coleman Free Jazz album from 1961. I did go ahead and put the original cover,
yes,
not my Atlantic cover on there. This is the original. It's got the Jackson Pollock painting on the right side. I like the colors. I like the album cover. Yeah. It's okay. Just okay to me.
In its original form, that was a cutout where the Jackson Pollock picture is. So when you open the cover, then you had the notes, the liner notes, and the picture itself. So there's some uniqueness to that. Yeah, it's good artwork. It's neat artwork. Some more on that of why Jackson Pollock is on there, because Ornette Coleman was also a painter. And in one of his later albums, they used his artwork, Ornette Coleman's artwork, on the empty foxhole. So Ornette Coleman chose Jackson Pollock painting because he was a big fan of his artwork. Nice. So going back to that comment last week, I did cut a bunch of that footage out because I did go on a diatribe about Hototeke.
That's right. So, that's right from last week.
The album is definitely it's a good looking cover for what it was and is in 1960-61. So
True. All right, let's move on to the next slide. Jazz style for the day. We're going in alphabetical order. So this week we're going to talk about electro swing. Electro swing is modern interpretation of swing merged with EDM. So its performances typically include both a live band and a DJ. I can't think of any jazz that we've heard so far that would include a live band and a DJ. Can you think of anything that we've heard so far?
Not with a live band like that. The electric stuff. No. Not with a band style, but if it was just electronic with some saxophone, I'd go to Grizz.
Grizz, yeah.
He does a lot of that stuff, and that's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah. But jazz, electro swing. Yeah.
No, that's not his style.
No.
It's electronic with some saxophone.
But I'll tell you what, if we do run across electro jazz, we'll know what it is based on the slide tonight. I'll know what it is. All right, let's move on to the next slide where you can get it. All the major streaming platforms have Ornette Coleman Free Jazz album from 1961. You may have the Atlantic. You may have the original 1961 cut. You may have the, what was it, 1988, the re-release from 88. So, just look for it on all your major streaming platforms. We would prefer that you go out to your local record store and buy local. We always strive to get you to go out and do that. I do have a quote by Ornette Coleman at the bottom of that slide. Jazz is the only music in which the same note can be played night after night, but differently each time. And I love that quote. I think of the symphony. When I hear a quote like that, if you go see the Chicago Symphony play Mahler's 1, and you turn right around the next night and you'll hear the London Symphony play Mahler's 1, they better dang near sound identical.
Yes.
Okay? You go to a jazz club and you hear Miles Davis Kind of Blue one night, and you turn right around and go hear Miles again the next night, it's not going to be identical. It may be similar, but it's not going to be identical.
Unless it's a plug nickel, and then it's never the same.
Yeah, and then nothing is even similar. So I just love the quote. No, night after night, not the same.
I think about the YouTube short with the plug nickel, where you see the guy putting a square, a round peg in a square hole. And the lady's like, no, don't do that. And then it's a rectangle. Which hole does this go into? The square hole. And now it's a triangle. What? That's the plug nickel.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right, let's move on to the next slide. This year in history. I don't know why I picked 1971, except I was confused by iTunes, so we're going to do 1971. All in the Family debuts on CBS. That's funny. I was never a huge All in the Family fan, but I don't remember the premiere, but I did watch reruns of All in the Family. Apollo 14 lands on the moon. Also, Joe Frazier defeats Muhammad Ali in 15 rounds.
What a fight.
Yeah, what a fight, right?
Fight.
Also in 1971, the New York Jazz Museum opens up. So that's a cool fact. 1971 in New York, you got to go to the Jazz Museum. Unfortunately, also in 71, we lost Pops. Louis Armstrong passed away that year.
Yeah, July
and again,
6th.
And again, that's my birthday. No, not 1971, but I was a year old. I'm sorry that I picked 1971. The album actually came out in 61. And again, I was confused by iTunes, so I don't want our listeners to be as confused as I was. The album came out in 71. iTunes showed me, the album came out in 61. iTunes showed me 71. And then, All right. Anyways, let's move on to the timeline slide. 1930, Ornette was born, which I don't know what else happened in 30, but that was pretty cool. It happened in 1930. 1958, Ornette released his first album called Something Else, ! And that's the name of the album. Something Else with 3 exclamations. So it was a big statement. And again, I messed up the date on this timeline slide. I got to stop watching football while I make my timeline slides.
Yes, you should.
1960 was when this album was recorded, and it was released in 1961. The last studio album that Ornette released was in 1996, and that was the last studio album, not posthumously or some of the live recordings that came out later. Yeah. And then again in 2015, Ornette passes away. So just a brief timeline about Ornette. We'll talk a little bit more about Ornette here on this very next slide. Some of the influences that I found for Ornette, Louis Armstrong. Louis Armstrong was a big, and King Oliver. And of course, he was born in the 30s. So some of that music from Pops and King Oliver weren't exactly new, but it's probably what he could get his hands on to listen to. And it also talks about Parker, not only in the magazine, but also on the wiki page. Charlie Parker being a huge influence on Ornette. Those three influences right there coming from where he was at kind of makes sense to me as far as influences go. Drew, did you find anything else?
I didn't. I came up with those same ones as well, and I thought that the King Oliver and Pops it's really definitely a fact there, and that's something to be admired by. So yes.
Yeah. Yep. Dad, anything else?
Just have a question. What football game were you watching that you reported this was the weather report? Yeah.
You're looking at
Yeah. You're looking at the.
Sorry, folks. I changed the top of this slide to say Ornette Coleman.
Oh, good.
So what Dad's referring to is Matt sent the slides over to us this afternoon, and it showed weather report on the top. So yeah, what football game had you so distracted that you were talking about weather report?
Well,
It comes back to 1971 too, doesn't it?
Maybe that's why, yeah. Every other piece of information on the slideshow is correct, I promise. Discography, he had 25 studio CDs, 16 live CDs, and 8 compilation. So he's got a major, release. He was a hard worker. There were some years where he did 2 albums in 1 year. Not necessarily recorded and released in that year, but 2 releases in that year. So definitely a hard worker. And a good player.
Oh, yeah.
Genre that I've got listed, and these are just some of the few that were listed, but jazz fusion, third stream, and free jazz. We'll pick up a little bit more information about the third stream album that I'll talk about here in just a minute. But third stream for sure. And of course, free jazz. 6 Degrees, I had to actually work pretty hard on this week. Ornette never played directly with Miles, but he did play with.
Uh-oh. What, Drew?
We're going to continue, and then I'll chime in. I have some knowledge.
Okay, you got other knowledge than I found. ChatGPT was wrong, by the way.
It always is.
So if ChatGPT told you,
ask it to make fingers of humans or to do mathematicians stuff, it'll all be wrong.
1483. 6 Degrees this week. Ornette played with Jack DeJohnette on the album Song X with Pat Metheny, and then of course Jack DeJohnette played a lot with Miles Davis. So we got Dej. So who did you find?
Now I'm going to drop this slide up here because I think it's worth noting, and I've added this information into your slideshow, which you don't get to see either. So I'm going to read it right out of. Doing your research and reading is really, really crucial. Miles Davis, and you'll remember this as I begin to tell you the story, initially was dismissive of Don Cherry's playing, claiming that anyone can tell that the guy is not a trumpet player. It's just notes that come out, and every note he plays, he looks serious about it. And people will go for that, especially white people. According to Cherry, however, when Davis attended an Ornette Coleman performance at the 5 Spot, he was so impressed with Cherry's playing that he set in with the group using Don Cherry's pocket trumpet in 1964. Later in that year, 1964 Downbeat Blindfold Test, Davis indicated that he really liked Don Cherry's playing. So
okay, he sat in on
record.
All right, okay.
Not on a record that I can find, but it is noted by several sources that he did play with Ornette Coleman and he did play with Don Cherry at 5 Spot in 1964. So I wanted to bring that because we always look for albums, period. But there's no album with him. But it is indicated that they did play together.
All right. Just so we're not arguing that he played with Jack DeJohnette.
No, oh, no. 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 I'm just saying this one deviates a little bit.
Yeah.
But the fact that he and Don Cherry and Ornette Coleman were on the stage together at the 5 spot is a big deal to me, especially being that Miles never did get into the free jazz. He did a lot of other stuff, but the free jazz was not it.
Yeah, I agree.
Tag, not it.
Tag, not it. All right, a few facts about Ornette. Ornette was completely self-taught on the sax. He never had a lesson, and just taught himself the basics and then moved into the professional side of sax. He was rated Downbeat Jazz Hall of Fame in 1969. Downbeat Jazz Hall of Fame. He did win his Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award in 2007. And of course, the principal founder of the free jazz movement. Some call him the grandfather of free jazz. Yeah. The trumpet and violin were the other instruments that he played. Now, I didn't really get into his trumpet music this week. I'm sure that because it's a marathon, not a sprint, I will have time to listen to if he did. I don't even know if he recorded a trumpet jazz. Did he do any?
On that?
Yeah. I didn't veer off too much from free jazz this week. But
there is a picture on Wiki of him playing the violin in '78. A picture of him playing the trumpet at the Great American Music Hall in San Francisco in '81. So there might be a recording for me to find.
Okay.
If I find that, I will put it in the comments below with the timeline of our organization tonight.
Nice. All right. The facts on free jazz. Free jazz was recorded in one take with no overdubs. I found that fact very interesting.
Wow.
You've got 8 people all doing something completely different, and you get one take to do it. So I guess there was no mistakes.
Could you tell?
That's a fine question right there.
As I mentioned earlier, it is 2 quartets, one in each channel, one in each ear, and this album actually served as a blueprint for Ascension from John and Machine Gun from Peter. So this was the tip of the spear. We're talking the blueprint for Ascension, and we covered both of those artists in previous episodes. Both of those albums actually too, Ascension and Machine Gun. This is the one that set the precedence for both of those albums. All right, well that's it for the slideshow. Thank you so much for letting me do that. At this point in the episode, we're going to go ahead and rate the album. Is that right?
Yes, we're going to mess things up here. We're going to rate it, get into the dialogue of it.
Yep.
And then we have something that Dad wants to highlight. So what's new will be after our dialogue about the album.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go first with my rating because I'm warmed up. This one again. If we didn't say it already, which I don't think we did, we are using the Jazzwise magazine top 100 albums that shook the world. Counting down from 100, this album is number 15 on the list. We've had 85 other albums, 85 other albums in our ear. This one for me this week came in at a solid 8. My rating this week is an 8.
Yes.
Yeah, good. And I gave it a 7.5. Yeah.
we both just did that. What?
Yes. Well, if you think of the creativity of all these musicians, these 2 quartets blending together, and the improv that they're doing, then that to me rates very high. The rhythm and the drums throughout, there's a solid rhythm that I didn't catch a lot of change with the rhythm, which is significant to me. And so the historical setting, I rated that high too. So I gave this a 7.5.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure where we were going to land with you, Dad. To me, this album, the week that we went through it, I think that it hit me the most because you're listening to some people that you think you know. We hadn't really encountered Don Cherry at this point in time, and the pocket trumpet was really blowing me away. So you start digging into what Don's doing, and then you take somebody like Freddie Hubbard, who has known on that straight jazz sound. There's no doubt that coming after the Fats Navarro, Clifford Brown, and then into the Freddie Hubbard, you expect that sound. So for him to be on a free jazz album really kind of shakes it up. And then we don't really know about the man Eric Dolphy. We know of, but not the man. But my introduction to the drummers, to the bass, and obviously to these names was huge. The music, you know, we've listened to Cecil Taylor by now and Albert Ayler, and the free jazz albums are not our flavor. I'm not running to the buffet to eat this over and over again. But I couldn't get away from this album that week. And then I ended up digging into so many other albums of his, both this week and last year when we do this. The Empty Foxhole, which I went to just because he did his own artwork for the cover from 1966. The Shape of Jazz to Come.
Oh, yes.
I think, again, we're not looking ahead, so I don't know this for sure, but I think that if it's not at 15, it's got to be in the top 10, because The Shape of Jazz to Come was such an incredible album to listen to. The Shape of Jazz to Come and Change of the Century.
Yes.
So those were some additional albums that I really started to look into, and I think it blew me away. This is unburdened jazz, free jazz. I gave it an 8.5 the week that we first did this, and I might have gone a little higher this year because I appreciated, although there was no tonality, no real time or real form, it was really just truly artistic. And then to really understand left ear, right ear, the middle school bands fighting for your attention. One is in the left ear and one is in the right ear, and I'm not sure which one to pay attention to, but they both win. That's as much warming up and talking about the album and my love for it as rating it. So all in all, guys, what was your thoughts? Will you go back to the album? Will you not? Should somebody listen to it and understand the greatness of the album, or should they not?
Okay, here's my thought. I would not recommend this to a first-time listener. I would not recommend this to Kendra. Listen to this album as she drives to work. It needs to be listened to reverently, but you do have to have some kind of understanding about what's going on. You have to know the album and that it's two quartets playing at the same time. You go into it and you just put on the album. That's what we did, Drew. The week that we did this together on our personal journey, you put in the album. You don't read anything about it. You don't find any information out about it, and you put it on and listen to it and basically kind of almost rate it right then. So not knowing that and knowing that jazz, free jazz is not our flavor. Okay, it's again not that Chinese buffet. It's not that bony salmon that I'm walking back up to the buffet to get another piece of that salmon. No, thank you. You're going to have to know something about the album before you listen to it. So I listened to Change of the Century as well. Something Else, and Tomorrow is the Question by Ornette this week. Tomorrow is the Question was the album that was released right after Something Else, his very first release, and then of course Free Jazz was his fourth album release anyway. So the other note is, of course, I talked about the third stream, the Pat Metheny song X. I of course had to have some Pat in my ear. You mentioned Freddie Hubbard and Don Cherry. This is the first week in 8 or 9 weeks that we've had trumpet in our jazz. I mean, think back, Bud Powell, Mahavishnu, Wes Montgomery, Herbie Hancock, Charlie Christian, Keith Jarrett, Ahmad Jamal, and Weather Report. We haven't had trumpets to listen to for the last couple of weeks anyways.
Maybe that's why it hit me so well. I was longing for the trumpet.
Yep. Well, and to hear my man Freddie Hubbard never disappoints me anyways. No. I did have a hard time this week, though, not determining, but focusing on, hey, that's Freddie. Hey, that's Don. I can tell the difference. I had a hard time focusing on that.
Yep.
So
I did too.
Yep.
I did too. One of the notes that I indicated, and I want to ask Dad something after I say this, but the week that we first did this, we agreed up front we were starting at 10, and any miscellaneous things that got in our way, we would work down our score from 10 to that. So we weren't thinking on, was it creative? Was there awareness? Was there emotion? Was there drive? We said we're going to give it a 10, and then anything that we notate will score differently. And I think there were some things that settled with us on our scores. Dad, we listened to this almost a year ago, so we've had some time to digest this album. This was your first gun at this. What was it like experiencing this album for the first time?
That's a good question because I was not interested in it. When I first heard several minutes of it, I did not go back to it for several days. I had to process, what am I really in for? What am I listening to? It seems like such a radical change from what I've experienced up to this point. So it did not please my ears at all. I played, several minutes of it, maybe 5 to 10 minutes of it with Mom in the vehicle. And her comment was, well, that's really interesting, which, yeah, it's very interesting. And I don't remember where we were later, a day or two later. And she says, that sounds really good. And, she's got musical ears. And so that impressed me. But I had a real struggle listening to the whole album. First of all, 37 and some minutes at one time. That's a stretch. Even 20 minutes isn't so bad if you're driving somewhere, you got little or nothing else to do and just sit and listen. But it was a stretch for me. But in terms of scoring, I look at the criteria. Then I think, where would I land with a 10 on each of the different areas? And then I score accordingly. So I start with 10 and then back it down. So yeah, that's the procedure I follow.
It's funny because we gave you those 2 weeks off. Episode 54 and episode 53 was John Coltrane's Ascension and Peter Broadsman's Machine Gun. We gave you those 2 weeks off. You didn't have to join us for those 2 weeks. I wonder, not had we made you do it, but had you listened to Broadsman and John Coltrane's Ascension, if you'd have scored this differently, because my score for Ascension was fairly low for a John Coltrane album, and my score for Broadsman I will not change. I'll go to the grave at a number 3 on that score, but it did give me a greater appreciation for this week, sitting at number 15.
Yeah.
All right.
And that makes me say this. Somebody ought to go listen to Ascension from John Coltrane and Peter Broadsman's Machine Gun. If the Albert Ayler, Cecil Taylor albums, if this free jazz of Ornette Coleman has really hit you, and I hope that it has, because I am changing my direction when it comes to free jazz. It sounds like noise until you really start to appreciate the musicianship that takes place. So if you have not listened to Ascension, if you've not listened to Machine Gun, don't say that Matt didn't tell you so. He told you so. Don't. But I have a newfound respect, and this journey of 100 albums is changing me rapidly. Again, we're at 85. We're 85 albums in, and there's so much more to come. I do want to clarify, because I didn't take the time in our scoring to talk about this, so I'm going to put the slide up right now. We were listening to jazz and wanted to figure out what we could do to better listen, our awareness of this. Joe Coker's book, Listening to Jazz, had in it that we're looking for craftsmanship, awareness, creativity or creativeness, and then spirit and drive. Then we added for our rating the emotion. How do we feel? How did it make us feel then? How does it make us feel today? And so we use some of that to do that rating. And again, it's all part of us learning what jazz music is. And that's the dialogue that we've been having. I saw a note this week that reminded me of something that Phil said during the week of Art Ensemble of Chicago. And it reminds me of Wynton Marsalis' statement that we quote a lot. You got to go there to know there. If you're in the room when this music is played, it's like a life force of its own creation. Something will always get lost in the recording of it. And I liken that to watching Snarky Puppy videos. You know, their original beginnings was everybody put on headphones so that they could listen through the soundboard of Snarky Puppy playing. Everybody got on stage together. And what happens for the first time when you're sitting with a group to hear the music as it's coming at you for the very first time? And I think about Art Ensemble of Chicago. What's it like to sit there and watch them perform this music? So then I take this album and go, what would it have been like to have two separate bands playing for your attention from either side of the stage if you saw something like that live? So to me, this album really is one of those that begins to stand out more and more and more. I really did appreciate The Shape of Jazz to Come a lot more than I did this album.
Yes.
I dug into Don Cherry, though, finding out that he's got 35 studio albums, 72 albums with others, and 16 of those were with Ornette Coleman. So I did a little bit more digging because of the pocket trumpet. I mean,
I put holy shnikes in my notes behind Don Cherry's name.
Right. And of one of all of the trumpet legends, why have we not really encountered that name a whole bunch? And it's mostly because people like us don't really care for the free jazz sound of the music of the time. And so I start going back to what is free jazz, why did we call it this, what was going on? But it's a far cry from what is suitable for people's ears. But if you're getting into it, there's a lot of free jazz still happening in the U.S. today, and especially throughout the world. There's a lot of free jazz albums being recorded. There's still a lot of great music out there, so give that the opportunity. That's really what really sticks out to me about the album is, wow, how come we'd never heard it? And how come I appreciated it so much more as a free jazz album than I have any others up until now?
So one final note for me. On the 99 list, this album was at number 35. And of course, again, this week it's number 15. On the 06 list, it was at number 19. So it has gradually made its way up to number 15 in the 2022 list, which I found was interesting, the trend upwards. So maybe the next list they do, it'll be in the top 10. They'll shuffle some things around in the top 10. Maybe. I'm just saying.
Would you like it in the top 10?
Much like you, I want The Shape of Jazz to come in the top 10.
Poor Dad's like, what are you guys talking about? We dug into the music.
Yeah.
That's what we did.
What's next?
What's next?
I'm trying to sit here in silence going, The Shape of Jazz to Come. Maybe something that we want to know about.
So we don't want to give too much away.
I'm done.
Okay.
So,
Dad, tell us
what's new.
Well, this is, you refer normally to the new stuff, the old man and new stuff.
Old man, new jazz, baby.
New jazz. Well, this is old jazz, old man and new album. Spyro Gyra, and the album is Jubilee. It's a compilation of Spyro Gyra's music over the years, and one of the tracks is 50. It's called 50/50. It's a brand new song that Spyro Gyra put out. Amherst Records, and obviously Amherst is one of the players on the Spyro Gyra group. So it's a jazz fusion album, and it was released. I show November of 2024.
Yeah.
I think the slide says 25, but you could be wrong. I could be right.
I'm wrong. It was that dang football game I was watching.
Is that what it was?
So 2024, I'll X out 25.
Yeah. So I would recommend our listeners go to this album. It's jazz fusion. And so it's not like free jazz, but it is very catchy. The first track on this album is one that our listeners would be very familiar with, Morning Dance.
Yeah.
And that was actually on their second album, and it's the most recognized track that Spyro Gyra has done. So that's an opening to this album. There you have it, Spyro Gyra, Jubilee.
I will tell you this, that it's not on iTunes.
Oh,
Jubilee.
okay.
Every other album by Spyro Gyra is on there, but because I think this is a compilation sold on album or CD or record or CD, I'm not sure iTunes got this one. So if you're an iTunes listener, user, you won't find Jubilee on iTunes.
You will find it on YouTube Music.
Mm-hmm.
There's some interesting facts about how Spyro Gyra got their name. For instance, Amherst, he was studying biology, and he was studying the Spyro algae.
Spyrogyrios, or
Yes.
something like that, algae.
And when they went to perform at this bar, the announcer said, "How do I announce you?" And he says, he used that term, the genus term, and the guy didn't pronounce it correctly. He said, "This is Spyro Gyra," and it fit. And they said, "Hey, let's go with that because it sounds so chill." So Spyro Gyra began.
Yeah.
Is it Spyro Gyro or is it Spyro Euro?
Spyro Hero.
That's awesome.
That's funny. Look at him.
I'm hungry.
He's a funny man.
Dad, something that I wanted to touch on with this is marking their 50 years in
Yes.
music. Several of the members have been throughout this with half a century. Formed in New York in 1974. And Buffalo, New York, absolutely.
Buffalo.
And one of the notes that I found in digging into this album, they created the framework for what we call contemporary jazz in the early 80s and 90s.
Yep.
And listening to this, I will say, I know where I gained my appreciation for a tight audio on drums and a clean bass line.
Mm-hmm.
This reminds me of what I loved about music. And almost every song, Matt, I didn't realize this, almost every song on this compilation CD, I knew. I can hum along to almost every song. So all of a sudden I'm like, well, how is it that I know these jazz songs? Well, thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
I will thank you, because somehow I ended up listening to a lot of these songs and I had no idea here, now that I'm in my 50s, that these are songs that I knew that wouldn't have been played on the radio. So how did I get access to these songs? And I'm guessing that you had them on CD or
Yeah.
tape.
Did you realize that Spyro Gyra was a jazz? I did not recognize it as jazz.
Well, because it's the fusion, and again, Pat Metheny, my man Pat, is a fusion player. It's not the swing style jazz. It's not the straight ahead. Miles Davis kind of jazz. It's not free jazz. It's the jazz fusion stream of music.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's the other one? Foreplay. Foreplay is fusion jazz. Spyro Gyra. What was it? What was the other one? There's a couple other ones that I had started listening to a long time ago. But yeah. Well, thanks for doing the What's New.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's
Sorry.
awesome. No, that's awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, which one of you want to introduce next week's artist? Oh, weekend music. Yeah,
weekend music, and then
of course.
then we'll go to next week. Do you already have your magazine out? Are you ready?
No, I'm not ready. Let's talk about our weekend music.
Go.
Okay. I had a great weekend music. We didn't see much live music this week except for Lady D at the winery on Friday night, which was amazing. Gunslinger played. It was a chilly night, but it was a fun night. We sat by the fire pit and had a few drinks with our friends and just listened to some great music from Lady D and Gunslinger. On Friday morning, I had to go to the dentist and get some dental work done. I had 2 stumps pulled out of my mouth, and I asked you for a recommendation. It was a gorgeous recommendation. Thank you so much. Chuck Mangione in my ear while I'm getting my teeth pulled actually made that experience quite enjoyable. Unfortunately, I only made it through 3 songs before he was all done. But I continued to listen to it on the way home as I was driving home with the gauze in my mouth. So it was a great recommendation. I really appreciate you helping me find something to listen to kind of ease me through that transition. Once the 9 shots were done, I didn't feel anything other than that doing the dental work. So great weekend music for me. Of course, football started this week too, as I've alluded to several other times this episode, and probably where all my mistakes came from this week. I was not paying attention while I was doing the slideshow. So I was watching some football this week too.
Dad?
And yes, of course, I listened to Spyro. I listened to this album. I found an artist, Jason Moran. The album is called Taking Turns. I think that's something new that I listened to. I listened to some Brad Muldow.
Yes.
Yeah, that new album.
Yes.
Ride Into the Sun. And of course, Lady D. I missed the drum lesson because she was sick this last Wednesday, so I had to go on my own. And I'm trying so hard. Just something as simple as the money beat. It's not coming, guys. It's
the money beat.
It's just not
D money.
Right kick, hi-hat, left, right, left, right. Oh boy, I've got a ways to go. My brain says it's there. My hands and brains do not work together, but I got to keep trying.
Keep at it.
Yep, that's what it takes.
You know how you learn something new?
Repetition.
Practice.
Yeah. I practiced 37 minutes today. 45. Friday.
The whole time he listened to Free Jazz Parts 1 and 2, he was practicing. Hey, I can make that happen.
Friday, I was
I'm a free jazz drummer.
Yes. Oh, that's kind of what it sounds like, actually. Anyway, thank you.
Look, I don't have to be Billy Higgins to play free jazz. I can be Verlin Rice. Oh man, that's bad.
That's right.
Well, this weekend I've had an interesting weekend because I ended up not only with a lot of Ornette Coleman in my ear, but I really got stuck on a 2006 album from Roy Hargrove, Nothing Serious. And I've listened to it probably 3 or 4, 5, 6 dozen times over the last year and a half. But something hit me in this album, and I'm just stuck listening to it all weekend long. We've had a great weekend. Thank you guys so much for sending that cool weather down south here. It's been nice to experience what 70 degrees feels like again. Now, today it was back up. It was supposed to be 93, but it ended up being 88 degrees as the high today. Going to be about the same tomorrow. So for me, the weekend music has been full. As you guys know, I've been entertaining a new opportunity, part-time. I call it part-time temporary. I'll be teaching film editing in the day, and then I'm going to talk about it more and more now as we get closer. But we are 2.5 months in to the interview that I'm doing for the book author. So I get to interview a gentleman. We send the digital recordings out to Life Books Memoirs, who I'm working for. It's another part-time temporary job, right? So I'm sending that out, and it's coming along so great. The stories and the interview have been great. And I found my rhythm working with the gentleman. It's been so much fun. So I've had my hands on a lot of different things over the last few weeks, and try to settle all of the dust and get back to normal. And then I'm reminded as soon as that wind comes in that the dust is back in the air, and okay, let's go. I'm reminded more and more every day that jazz is just like life. We're going to have to improvise at every corner, whether we're watching football trying to do some homework or whether we've got a million things going. There's always an opportunity to improvise, and that also comes with practice. We don't plan on things going sideways or things changing in direction, but when it does, if you're prepared for it, it's not a big event. So that to me is my week anyways. So I look forward to telling y'all more about how things are going with both of my part-time jobs as we wrap up, and I'll be done in December, maybe with both of them. The book will be done in December, and then we'll see what happens on the next chapter of my life when we come rolling into the first of the year. So, man, life is so much fun.
Did you not do some photo shoot with your friend this week?
Yes, I was on a big project out. Just business. That's the other part of the camera business. Yeah, big massive shoot. I won't drop the realtor's name, but I was blown away at the fact that in talking to her, she is an auctioneer. And I thought, my word, I know your lingo all too well. And I thought about Mr. John Whalen in his time as an auction. Well, he still is. And she told me it's really not hard to get your auctioneer's license here in town. So who knows? Maybe I'll go learn to talk the jive of an auctioneer. I'll come home and take a couple of quick lessons from Mr. John Whalen.
Well, one thing he'll tell you: buy low, sell high, and take a piece of that pie.
So I'll start. Hey, y'all, turkeys, who's going to give me $50? So, oh, man. So life is always fun. A lot of moving pieces.
Yep.
So with that, I got my magazine open. You want me to tell you who's coming next week?
Yes, please.
As if we haven't spoken of him already. Because he played the bass clarinet. He played the bass clarinet on the Ornette Coleman free jazz album that we just talked about. We turn to number 14. I'm going out to lunch, baby. Eric Dolphy's album, Out to Lunch. This was on Blue Note, came out on LP and CD. It was recorded February 25th of 1964. And this features, of course, Eric Dolphy on alto, flute,
and the bass clarinet.
Bass clarinet. I'm sorry, I saw the BCL and I thought, the bass clarinet. Now, we also hear a trumpeter that we just listened to, Mr. Freddie Hubbard. Always good. On the vibraphones, we have Bobby Hutcherson. Vibes? Here we go. Richard Davis is on the bass, and Tony Williams, who is a name that we've heard because of Miles Davis and Tony Williams' experience on drums. So we could be in for some more free. We could be in for some fun. We could be in for another great week of music. So you'll have to tune in next week as we tell you what we think about Eric Dolphy's Out to Lunch. So in other words, pack a lunch. You're going to need it.
We're going to be here for a while next week. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Any closing remarks, thoughts?
Just thanks to those who follow and subscribe and make comment. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like we said at the beginning, we're rearranging some things here based on some feedback that we've gotten. We hope that kicking out the audio clips doesn't mess up the rest of you, but we've gotten that feedback. Continue to comment. Let us know what you think. We're on TikTok. You can hit us there. Come by the website, get our email from there, which is what we've been seeing a lot of. Again, thanks to everybody in Europe that's tuning in. we love you guys. And at some point in time, we'll have to go over and visit y'all just for all of the fun that we've had in the dialogues. Like and subscribe, hit that bell so that you get notified every time we get a new launch for the episode. And we have changed that. It's now in the evenings. I think we're getting a little bit better traction, so I hope it didn't screw up y'all's rhythm too much, because I know what consistency means to everybody. So thanks again. Like, subscribe, and it doesn't cost you anything to hit like and subscribe, but it lets us know that you appreciate and we've had an opportunity to hear from you.